Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live with Victim Services and CILO. My name is Kristen Ferguson, and I am the Palm Beach County Victim Services Grant Coordinator. Today, we're having just a discussion with CILO and Victim Services, talking about the different services that we offer in relations to victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. We will, kind of highlight some of the other services that we provide. We'll speak about the therapy services, and CILO will discuss, or Laura from CILO, she'll discuss the different services that CILO has to offer. So Palm Beach County Victim Services, our vision is justice for all crime victims. And our mission statement is with compassion and respect, we assist victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, homicide, and other violent crimes through crisis response, advocacy, therapy, and community awareness. The crime types that we focus on is sexual assault, human trafficking, domestic violence, dating violence, stalking, homicide, DUI homicide, seriously bodily injuries, hit and run, and any other violent crime. So our services, we provide advocacy, and with that, we assist with victims' compensation, sexual assault, for sexual assault and human trafficking. We do relocation. We assist with victim impact statements. We do safety planning, injunctions for protections, and we also accompany victims through investigation procedures, depositions, hearing, trials, forensic exams, forensic interviews, sentences, medical follow-up appointments, and we also provide therapy services, both individual and group therapy for children and adults. And Isabel, one of our therapists, will be going into more details about that later. So we have 5 offices. We have our SART office, which is in West Palm Beach. We have our central office, which is at the Central Courthouse, or South office, which is at the South County Courthouse. And we also have our West office, which is out in the Glades, Bell Glades. Our North office is at Palm Beach Gardens, or in Palm Beach Gardens. And we also have the Butterfly House, which is a standalone forensic examination center. And so victims of sexual assault is able to go there to have a forensic exam done. They're able to meet with law enforcement, an advocate, as well as the SANE. Our offices are typically open Monday through Fridays, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. However, we're a 24-hour agency, so we operate 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and there's always an advocate on call. So throughout this presentation and throughout the other presentations, you'll see the helpline number. If you or someone you know have been a victim of a violent crime, you're more than welcome to call the helpline for more information, and an advocate will be able to assist you. So some red flags for domestic violence. So red flags for domestic violence: preventing or discouraging. So if your abuser is preventing or discouraging from spending time with others, insulting or demeaning you or shaming you, especially in front of others, preventing you from making your own decisions about work or school, controlling your finances in the household without discussion, controlling most of your daily activities, attempting to convince others that you are insane or incompetent, pressuring you to have sex that you're not necessarily comfortable with, or destroying your belongings, whether it's your household items or your personal belongings. Those are some red flags within relationships. For sexual assault, and this can be found, whether it's in the workplace or, amongst your group of friends. Some red flags for sexual assault would be touching another person with no regard for their wishes, sexualizing relationships that are inappropriately or non-sexual, using conversations that are inappropriately intimate telling sexual jokes or at inappropriate times or places, making inappropriate comments about people's bodies or sexuality. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, groping or undressing you, but even just doing certain acts that may be considered sexual or intimate, but in a wrong place, where you're not comfortable with it, and whether you disclose this to the person or not, they are red flags. So this is the power and control wheel, and it relates to domestic violence and sexual assault. And so we typically use this with our victims who fall under one of these crime types. As we said, domestic violence, it doesn't have to only be physical. It can be, the use of isolation, the use of intimidation. There's emotional abuse, minimizing, denying, and blaming, using children, using male privilege. It can be financial, and the same thing for sexual assault, for sexual violence. We're also on social media. So if you follow us on our Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, we like to post, updates about different crime types. We like to get the word out there about the different services that we offer. And if that's, a way that you feel comfortable connecting with us, if you don't want to go through the helpline and you decided that, you want to use social media as a way to get in contact with us, that's also acceptable. We have people who have access to these accounts that are able to assist you if you do need help. As I said, we're a 24-hour agency, so our crisis helpline is 24 hours. So if you or someone you know are a victim of a crime, please call the Palm Beach County Victim Services Helpline, and the phone number is 561-833-7273 or 866-891-7273. And just a quote that I would like to end with, sexual assault and domestic violence are difficult things to talk about them anyway. So even though it may be hard to have a conversation with somebody about these two crime types, they are things that need to be addressed. They are conversations that need to be had. And you never know if, you may be speaking to someone who just may have the resources for you, or just might know where to point you, in the right direction. So if you or someone is a victim of any of these crime types, please feel free to reach out to us. I'll turn it over to Isabel, who's going to be talking about healthy relationships.
Hi, okay, so I'm going to try to share my screen seamlessly.
Okay.
Let's see. All right. All right. So therapy services at Victim Services. My name's Isabel, and I'm one of the therapists for Victim Services. I'm at the SART Center, and we do offer therapy at all 5 of our locations that Kristen mentioned. So we serve survivors of stalking, sexual assault, human trafficking, dating violence, domestic violence, survivors of homicide and DUI fatalities, and general crimes and other violent crimes. And one thing I want to point out is that we do serve primary victims who are victims of one of these crimes, and we also serve secondary victims, so a family member, a loved one who's gone through this with the primary victim. We provide services to them as well. And our therapy services are trauma informed. And again, we provide therapy throughout Palm Beach County. And currently we're providing therapy via telehealth, which is exciting for a few different reasons. In some cases, it might make services more accessible for people if there are, logistics that are getting in the way of accessing services. And it also helps us reach people who maybe are away at school or just out of the area, but still in Florida, who were victims of a crime in Palm Beach County. We can work with them as well. We have licensed master's level clinicians and clinical interns. We do individual and group therapy with adults and children. And currently, therapy is provided in English and in Spanish. And we work with acute and past trauma. So even if the crime occurred, many years ago and the symptoms are present now, our services are available in those situations as well. So moving on to healthy relationships. I wanted to start with this image. I like the way that it's organized. This is the relationship spectrum from love is respect. So, it has a list of qualities of healthy relationships. And then it also has some of the red flags that Kristen had mentioned. So, in healthy relationships, general characteristics are, open communication, partners respecting one another, trusting one another, being honest with one another, an equal share of responsibilities, and the ability to enjoy personal time. And then when you get into the red flags, those relationships, people may notice that there's a break in the communication, or there's fear, and being completely open or honest with a partner. There's disrespect, there's distrust. One partner may behave as though their needs are more important or their opinions are more important. And then we can start getting into like possessiveness. And as these things go on, as these behaviors go on, we get into the abusive category. And I also want to reiterate that domestic violence and relationship abuse is more than just physical. Of course, physical abuse does exist, and there's also sexual abuse, which, is categorized by unwanted touching, crossing sexual boundaries, and also less overtly physical behaviors that make someone feel unsafe in an intimate situation. And then there's emotional abuse, so things like coercion and manipulation and isolation from friends and family. I'm sorry, those behaviors are also abusive. There's financial abuse, so controlling finances, withholding money if one partner is in control of both partners' finances and controls money or dishes out money, or demands the other partner's paycheck. All of those fall under the category of financial abuse. There, especially now with the state of technology, there's digital abuse. So tracking a partner through GPS, controlling a partner's social media use, demanding passwords, going through phones, going through email accounts, going through social media accounts. And then there's also stalking. So if one partner is showing up unannounced or uninvited, or constantly calling, constantly communicating, and that can be really intimidating and is a form of abuse. So to get a little more into healthy relationships, what makes a relationship healthy? So if anyone has any thoughts on that, we can give a couple minutes for responses. Oops. Well. All right, so I'm going to go into it. So characteristics of healthy relationships. I do want to point out that healthy relationships can look different for everyone. And ultimately, I think what makes a relationship healthy depends on the people who are in the relationship. And it might look a little bit different depending on, who the people are. But in a general sense, characteristics of a healthy relationship include open communication, so being able to communicate honestly and freely without fear of backlash, and also willingness to listen to each other's viewpoints, so communication goes both ways. Honesty and responsibility, so each person in the relationship takes responsibility for themselves, for their behaviors. Partners can accept their own behaviors and apologize without hurting one another. Trust and support. So people in the relationship offering each other mutual support and encouragement, encouraging each individual's interests, hobbies, needs, goals, providing empathy and validating each other's feelings and experiences, and also some freedom, especially with trust. Each partner should be able to spend time with their family and their friends and, have a little independence. And then respect. So respecting each person's space, respecting each person's privacy, individual values and beliefs, even if they are not the same. And then there's shared responsibility. So making decisions together, supporting each other's decisions, even if it's not always in 100% agreement, sharing financially, like sharing costs on dates or whatever, works for the people in the relationship, sharing household responsibilities, and doing things that both partners enjoy. So not just, deferring to one partner's interests or activities all the time. And there's fairness and negotiation. So accepting change, accepting different opinions, and a willingness to compromise are generally pretty important. And physical affection. So respecting each other's space and comfort level, showing physical affection in ways that your partner is okay with and consents to. And one way to ensure that is asking before acting. It's always okay to communicate about how affection is expressed and what each person's level of comfort is with physical affection. And then intimacy can include, physical aspects of the relationship, but also respecting privacy, respecting boundaries, being faithful according to, whatever the agreements are of the relationship. And, ultimately refraining from pressuring each other. So let's see, the bottom line is safety. So however these characteristics play out in a relationship, everyone deserves to be safe. Everyone deserves to feel like they can speak, think, behave freely without fear within a relationship. So that is really the bottom line. And things like, communication and distribution of responsibilities, again, they probably look a little different in each relationship, but healthy relationships do always promote each person's right to think and feel and behave freely. So without fear of any of the physical or emotional, sexual, mental harm that we've discussed today. And again, here is our helpline number. So if you or someone who you know has been a victim of a crime, please always feel free to call our helpline. It's 24/7 at 561-833-7273. All right. And that is it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Let me see if I can share my screen as well. All right. Hopefully it worked on your end. All right. Well, hello. My name is Laura Cusack, and I work for the Coalition for Independent Living Options. We serve Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast, so I know we're kind of streaming today for Palm Beach County, but in case there's anybody listening who is from the Treasure Coast area, we also have an office up there. So a lot of the same stuff I'll talk about for our services we have in the Treasure Coast. So feel free, if you're up there and you want to get connected with our office up there, you can reach out to me and I'll be happy to get you connected. But before I talk about our services, I just wanted to cover a little bit about disabilities, because my agency serves people who are victimized by a crime and who have some type of disability. But a lot of times when we hear disability, we think that means, someone who's in a wheelchair or has a physical disability, but there's actually several types of disabilities that I'll just briefly cover. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because we know that people with disabilities are oftentimes targeted for sexual assault and domestic violence, sometimes at higher rates than those individuals who do not have a disability. And sometimes those traumatic experiences of domestic violence and sexual assault can result in a disability. And so we're able to provide services, whether it's a disability that was already pre-existing before the sexual assault, or a disability that was acquired after, let's say, a domestic violence incident. We're able to help and provide services. So just briefly, what is considered a disability? Based on the federal definition, that is someone with a physical or mental impairment that restricts one or more areas of major life activities. And so major life activity, I believe I have a couple here listed just to give an example. So basically, life activities, eating, standing, walking, lifting, and there's a whole array of them. So if there's impairment in one or more of those areas, that would be considered disability. Also, a person who has a history of maybe a disability. So maybe, let's say I perhaps used to have breast cancer and I don't have it anymore, but because I have a history of it, I would still fall under the definition of disability and still be able to receive services from the CILO, which is another name for my agency. Or someone who is perceived as having a disability. So even if you've not been officially diagnosed with something, if it's kind of regarded or others believe that maybe, or you believe you have a disability, one of these three kind of bullets is what would help make you eligible to be considered someone with a disability. And then types of disabilities. So in addition to the physical disability, where maybe somebody has a broken arm, let's say there was a domestic dispute and an individual got injured in that would be considered a physical disability. And it may be temporary. So my broken arm will eventually hopefully heal, but that's okay. I'm still able to get services, even though it's not a permanent disability. Or maybe it's more extreme and I'm paralyzed or have more long-term physical impacts of that incident, that would also qualify. Or another type is mental and emotional disability. So this could be an example like PTSD and trauma resulting from that incident. Trauma in itself is recognized, could be recognized as a disability that we're able to meet and provide services for. Sensory disabilities, if the individual is blind or deaf or just hard of hearing, that would fall under a sensory disability. Then we have developmental and intellectual disabilities. So individuals that are on the autism spectrum disorder would be an example of that type of disability. Cognitive disabilities, so any learning disabilities, processing disabilities, ADHD, would fall under the cognitive type of disability. And then finally, there's hidden disabilities or sometimes medical disabilities where from the outside looking in, it may not be obvious that person has a disability, but they do. And so diabetes, for example, you may not know, or someone who has cancer, you may not know from the outside looking in that that's what they have, but that doesn't mean that they are not recognized as someone with a disability and able to get services. So those are the 6 or so types of disabilities, and we serve individuals with those at our agency. So at the Coalition for Independent Living Options, we have a department specifically for victim services. And we, in order to be eligible to receive services from our agency in that department, you have to be the individual or dependent of somebody who has any of those disabilities that I just shared. So again, short-term, it could be short-term disability, permanent, pre-existing, or acquired. And also be a victim of a violent crime or property crime. So domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, all of that would fall under this category of eligibility. But the interesting thing about our agency is you don't have to have reported to law enforcement and to be able to get services. So sometimes that's a barrier because individuals, they don't want to report or they never did report and it happened in the past. That's okay. We're still able to meet with you and provide services even if you never involved law enforcement or didn't report it. And finally, you must be either the primary victim or the secondary victim of that crime. So if you meet this criteria, we're able to provide services, and here's kind of a list of what some of those services look like. So assisting through the process of getting restraining orders, accompanying individuals and advocating at court and kind of being there through the process. I know sometimes when this is a new experience, it can be very overwhelming to go through some of this by yourself and not knowing even where to begin. So we have advocates that help, be there with you and try to make it a little less intimidating and, walk you through the process. So crime-related advocacy, helping with victims' compensation applications. We have counseling and different support groups that take place at our agency that individuals are able to join. We also can refer to other agencies. We do a lot of collaboration. We work with Palm Beach County Victim Services and other agencies. And that's why I love Palm Beach County, because everybody's very collaborative and working together and really have a passion for helping. We don't have our own housing, but we're able to help with other organizations and put you in touch with shelters or places where there'd be safe housing and help make some of those referrals. We also have an emergency victim fund. So sometimes grants don't always cover things that individuals need that are coming out of a sexual assault situation or a domestic violence situation. So we have a special funding available where we're able to look kind of case by case, at situations like, does this person need cameras around their house to feel secure, or better lighting, or change the locks? Sometimes that's not covered by grants that we have. So we're able to tap into this special victims fund to help cover some of those other expenses. And then, of course, advocating for accommodations based on whatever your disability is, making sure that you're getting what you're entitled to and deserve, and that that's being honored. And then finally, providing education training. So I know there might be some agencies listening that might want to learn more about working with people with disabilities and some other topics. And so we're able to provide training and support as well to agencies and staff on that. So I mentioned a support group, and we do have one running right now that I just wanted to kind of give a plug for, that is for domestic abuse survivors, and it meets on Thursdays in the evenings from 6 to about 6:45. And so if you're interested in joining that, it'll run till beginning of November, like November 5th, I believe. Let me know, comment in the chat, and we'll be happy to get you the right information on how to sign up and join that. It's confidential, it's free, there's no charge. It's a great space to kind of connect with other individuals who might, have gone through the same thing you're going through and just kind of want to connect and go through and discuss various topics. So I just want to share a couple impact stories of some individuals that were able to take advantage of our services and kind of give you an idea of what, maybe coming to CILO could look like. So first examples, we had an individual who learned about a student outreach event and came because he believed he was a victim of a sexual assault by someone he was living with. And he was concerned because his child was living with him also, and he didn't want him to be at risk and was worried about, what could happen. And so we were able to get him in touch with an advocate, and they were immediately able to get him to a new safe location. Another barrier was that he needed a Spanish-speaking officer. And so our advocate had connections and was able to get him with an officer where he could report the assault in the language he was comfortable speaking in. And so just the relief that the individual felt of, now not only is he in a safe place, but also he doesn't have to worry about his son being victimized as well. We have another example here of an individual who was in a domestic violence situation, and they were referred to us from Victim Services, had fled and escaped their abuser, and we were able to help find a shelter for them to go to. However, just logistics, they were denied, and so we had to go to Plan B and find another location, and they were able to get accepted. We could help them file for victims' compensation to relocate, and in addition to that, help them with counseling and some financial support through gift cards to be able to provide for food. And I did forget to mention, we do have a food pantry as well at our Palm Beach office. So that's something that we're able to help provide as a service as well, as just, providing in-kind food to help with some of the financial burdens I know that may be going on with 2020 right now. Finally, the last example I want to share is that we had someone reach out that was being abused by her boyfriend. And she was seeking crisis counseling and safety planning and support while going through the process of trying to get a restraining order. And so our advocate worked through her regularly on exercises and goals to really help her feel, control the situation and feel like she could talk with her family and friends about what was going on. And she joined one of our support groups and actually was so impacted by it that she hopes to start one of her own in the future as well, which is kind of cool to see that come full circle. So those are just a couple examples of what it could look like and how we might be able to help in certain situations and provide the services that we offer. Now, how to go about accessing our services. If you're an individual and you want to see if you could be eligible and get involved with us, here's our phone number. Call our agency. This is for the Palm Beach office, but if you're in the Treasure Coast, you can call it too, and they'll get you connected to the Treasure Coast office. If you're an agency and you have some consumers or clients that you think could benefit, feel free as well to call us. There's also a referral form that we can give you to fill out, and I'll have my contact info at the end. You can feel free to email me. I'll be happy to get you that form. Once the individual is in contact with us, we go through an intake process and go through some forms and see kind of how best we're able to help meet your needs. Lastly, I just want to touch on, because I work with the Coalition for Human Trafficking in Palm Beach County, and so I just want to mention how sometimes we see sexual assault and domestic violence happen, co-occur in conjunction with human trafficking. And so both our agency and I know Victim Services also provide services to victims of human trafficking. But we had a recent case that I just wanted to share where an individual was in domestic disturbance with their partner and left, met people who promised, to help out and get her the things that she needed and wanted. But those individuals who offered to help ended up being the same ones that then took advantage and ended up trafficking her. So just to kind of show how domestic violence or sexual assault could kind of be what pushes someone into a place where a trafficker may see that and take advantage and traffic that individual. So I included the National Human Trafficking Hotline in case that is something that anyone can ever use in the future. It's national and 24/7. So no matter where you are in the United States, any time of day, you can call and talk with them, and they can put you in touch with service providers in your area. And I think the only thing I have left is our contact info. Yeah, here we go. So this is our Palm Beach County office info here on the top. You've got our phone number. We are on Facebook. I added that quickly when I saw Kristen talk about Facebook. Oh, I needed to add that in there. But yes, so we're on Facebook. Our website is listed here. If you're an agency and you want that referral form, there's a referrals email you can send. Contact us at, or feel free to reach out to me. This is my contact. And then we also have our main advocate up in the Treasure Coast. Her info is here as well in case you're tuning in from one of our northern counties. And that is it. Thank you so much.
Okay, sorry about. Okay. All right, so once again, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Laura, for spending the afternoon with us and giving us a lot of information about CILO. Once again, if you guys, or if you know someone who is a victim of a violent crime, please contact us. Our helpline information is on the screen. We're on pretty much all social media platforms. And so please feel free to reach out to us if you need help or if you just need to talk to someone. Thank you and have a wonderful rest of your day.